All right, good evening, everybody. Okay, here we go. A little late getting started here. Had to put in all my credentials and stuff again, forget the multi-stream working, but it should be working this week. So away we go. I got a slightly different setup today, so I'm only just running here with one screen, so you'll have to bear with me on this. All right. In fact, maybe I can get a second screen up here quickly. Got a bit of a different setup here this week. Moving some hardware around. Let's have a look here. Give me 1 second. And let's do this. Let me just plug in a different screen. I will be right back. Yep, using the iPad as a second screen here today. All right, let me just move a few bits around. I got to remember you're here and the stuff's over there. All right. Okay, now last week we did some sprite work. Normally we do apps on the weekend, but today I wanted to go back and look at the SpriteKit stuff that we did last week because I managed to. I've solved the problem where the collisions were not working. I'm not certain that what I've got here, what I've done, it was the complete cause and has fixed it, but it's certainly working now. So rather than showing you me retyping everything, I'm going to go through very quickly here what I've done. So I started again, okay, and I went back, started a new app, exactly the same way I did it the first time, just a SpriteKit app, right? And let me see here. What's this telling me? Give me 1 second, see if I can fix whatever this is complaining about. Oh, okay. Yep. All right. So yeah, let me close an app over here. I'll be right back. All right. So many windows around. Okay, let's make this window a little smaller. Okay, you can't see it, but I got a window off to the side here on the iPad. A slight delay with the iPad using it on the second screen here, so it's getting a little confusing for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move some of this stuff around while I explain what I did. So yeah, I went back and started again, but basically did exactly the same thing that we did before. There's one key difference that I think may be possibly the cause for why it was a problem and why it's now working. I'll show you that here and I'll go through it. Just going to make sure I got all my screens in the right place here. So give me 1 second. All right, I got the screen there and a screen there. Okay, good. I want to make sure that you're all seeing the right stuff. Okay, let me make this a little smaller here. All right, so what I did was, hang on. I've lost my window. There it is. So what I did, I went back, started again, and like I said, I did exactly what I did previously. The difference is that instead of having everything I put it in the view controller before. What I did this time was I kept, when you create a SpriteKit app, it gives you this empty scene. It normally says like welcome or hello, or I think it's hello, something like that. Well, I just deleted that, but I kept this empty scene around. Now, the reason I did that is I've not added anything on here, but the app delegate loads, instead of going through and it loads up my view controller like it did previously, it loads this scene And this scene has, if we look over here, the custom class that's created for us when we make this is the game scene as well. So let's have a look here. Hopefully the audio level's okay. I see it peaking in the red here. Give me 1 second. All right, there we go. Okay, so hopefully it's okay. Let me know in the chat room if it isn't or if there's an issue. But yeah, so what we've got is essentially, instead of the view controller, we've got this games scene with this class attached to it, which means the difference is that instead of being a UI view controller, it is an SK scene, right? The reason I think that's important is because, you may recall I added this extra one here before, but the reason I think that's important is what was not working previously on the collision parts was some of this did move. Well, now it does. And I think that that's key, right? So all I've done is created a new scene, a new SpriteKit app, kept the empty scene, and all the code for the app is in here, and we'll go through it. It's all the same as it was before, with the exception that basically the collision part works. So I'm gonna have it fire the app up here. Just get the nope. Wait, we don't want it for the Mac. We want it for the iPhone. So let's do that one there. There we go. Come on. All right, while it's building that. Okay, so just to run through what I've done here, I've got an enum at the top here with my groups for the collision detection, because you've got to have these groups, right? So I've just got 3. One of them is not used at the moment. This is the same as what we did last week, right? We've got the attacker and we've got the rocket. And then in the game scene, this is the same as it was before. Like I say, instead of being UI view controller, it's now SK scene. So it takes advantage of using that inheritance that we've got going on in there. Let's get this over here. We'll let that fire up. Okay, and you can see there's an extra bit on there, but we will get to that. Good, that's ready to go. Okay, so same as before, right? This is all done in code instead of being built up on the scene. We've got 3 variables that we set out for each of the assets, right? The player, attacker, and rocket, okay? And then just to show you, the game view controller is basically, I've not done anything. I didn't touch the code in this. This is what just comes out of the shell when you create the app in Xcode. Then I set up some variables here, the same as we had before. There's the move speed for the player, the attacker, and the rocket. And then I assign these categories. Right, we've got these categories here, and then I assign some categories over here. And then there's this extra one, which is a player score of just 0, right? Because we're gonna, since we got that far, we'll start adding the score, and we will get into that as well. All right. Beyond that, the only extra thing compared to the code from last week is this label. I create an SK label node and I give it a font, right? Just so I've got that to reference throughout the app. The did move function here is very similar to, think of it in the terms of like view did load as far as a view controller, right? So anything we want to do at the beginning, we're going to put all the code in there to do it. So, and this, as I say, I think is what was key that was not working last week, which is now working correctly. So I set up the physics world and tell it that this, basically this file, right? This game scene.swift is going to be the delegate, the contact delegate for the physics world, right? The physics within the game. And then I just call 4 functions, and we're going to look at those here in a second. And then this one is a good one for debug. I'll get into that, and I'll comment that and show you what that does. But that's a good debug command that I found right there. So, we've got these 4 functions, right? And I call them in this order. It really doesn't matter which order they're called in. The create score display, it just creates, it sets up the label, right? The one that we set up here, label. gives it some text of score and then the player score, which initially, of course, is 0. All right. Then I just set the font size, set the color to white. The default would be black, so we wouldn't see it on our space scene that we eventually build. And then I just set the location and add it to the screen. Very straightforward. Same as we did on the previous weeks where we had, we attached the graphics. Here we're just creating a label and adding it here. The reason I did them in code was it's easier to manage it all in here in code than to mess around with adding it in the scene file and then having to have references and everything else. So the next one is goes along with the create score display, and that's the update player score. And all it does is I've got a very simple function here that I call to update the text label with the new score, right? It's exactly the same as we've got here. Here it gets set up, it's got the initial score of 0, but when you score something or I need to manipulate the score, I change the, in this case, just a very simple integer, right? The player score. And this function just goes along, gets that integer and just repaints that label on the screen with the updated score. You'll see that in working a little bit later on when we get there. The did begin part, this is the part that we were having trouble with last week. And what this does is, this is all about, basically doing the detection and what we want to do when that detection happens. We'll come back to this one because this is the key one that we had issues with last week. The other ones should be familiar if you were following along last week. Same as, just like the label, right? This add player, we set the position of the player on the screen, we set the scale, we give it a name, and then we add it to the screen. Very straightforward. The rocket does essentially the same thing, except that you may recall this was the troublesome code last week. Turns out you do need all of these. I was saying about it shouldn't, really, surely it shouldn't need all this code. Turns out it does, okay? So what this does is, I'll go through these in a second because we also add them on another one. So we're going to come back to that. But the rest of it is, it just adds it to the screen. And then this is our move function, essentially, right? This is our action that says, hey, rocket run the move rocket position function, right? And then when you've completed that, do these things here, which you may recall. So when it gets to the bottom of the screen, it's going to remove the rocket from the screen and then re-add it again at the top with a new position, right? You've seen that before in the previous streams. Hopefully it should make sense. If not, please, in the chat room, ask questions. We can go through it. And all this move rocket position function that's called here does is basically says, look, okay, remove the graphic to the graphic of the rocket to this position, and then add it, return that as a new action up here, and then it does this when that's finished. Okay, so remember the rocket goes up and the attacker comes down. That's really the only two differences between them. The rocket itself, remember, aligns with the player, whereas the attacker gets a random position at the top of the screen. All right. So the attacker is exactly the same thing. What we do is before we add it to the screen, we get a random location. So I say to it, look, somewhere between 50, give me a random number, somewhere between 50 and 700, which is basically the width of the top of the screen, if you think of the iPhone screen in this case, that's that width. And I've put a little bit of buffer space so it doesn't go too far close to the edges. And I say, look, pick a random number in between there. That's going to be the location you're going to start at the top across the screen. And then I use that and set it here again at the top of the screen. And then it's going to start working its way down. We just set the scale for the graphic. We give it a name. We've got this physics body stuff we'll get into here. We add it to the screen. Same thing for the attacker. Like I say, move the attacker position is basically the reverse of the rocket, right? So one going down, one going up. All right. Like I say, if you want to ask questions, hey, Coco Type, how you doing, buddy? How was your weekend? Coco Type, I got it working. I got all, just going through the code here because I got it working last week after I'd finished the stream, because isn't that always the way, right? Fouls live on camera, then you figure it out afterwards, and you want to rush back on and say, hey, look, I did solve it. I'm not a complete idiot. I was just delayed by 30 minutes. So that's that one there. And then the interactions, again, touches began, same as we had. I need to update this because at the moment it only works when you tap left and right on the screen. I haven't fixed that because I was focusing on the collision detection. But I did do one little change compared to the code that we were previously running. To detect the left and the right, what I've done is to allow for different screen sizes, the location basically gets the touch location, right? Wherever I touch it on the screen. And then the logic now says, look, if that location is less than half of the screen width, it must be on the left side. If it's more than that, I must have tapped on the right-hand side. If so, if it's left, move the player to the left. If I tapped on the right, move the player to the right. So that's that. Let's now talk about, I'm going to go scroll right back up here. Okay, let's now talk about the collision detection and how that's now working. So we define groups, right? So that basically, the reason being, if you think, for example, you may have multiple attackers, right? Different locations on the screen. But if you put them all in the same collision type group, by giving them a number here, then you only have to write the code once and says, look, if the bullet, the missile, the whatever hits anything within that group, I want you to do something. Which is another way of saying, if I hit anything within that group, which is all of the attackers that I put in that group, then I want you to perform an action, right? And tell me about it, and we'll perform an action. So that's what that does there, right? So we've got those set up, and then I'm going to skip on down here. So like I say, we set the categories, right? So the attacker category is 1. The rocket category is 2. And we just set those up there on that. These ones here, the enums, I'll now show you where that's used. So skipping on down, way on down. Here they are. So for the rocket, right, just like last week, like I say, most of this is the same code. It's just done in this SK scene file instead of the view controller, right? So we set up our physics body, and this is the same for the attacker. This is basically the pattern that you would use for everything, it turns out, right? It seemed to me like it was too much code and you shouldn't need it. Turns out, no, you do need it, and this is the way it works. So we say, okay, the rocket has a physics body, and I've set up a rectangle, right, of the size of the rocket graphic, right? Attacker, exactly the same thing. The attacker has a physics body with a rectangle of the size of the attacker, right? So if I change those scales, that's fine. The physics body is automatically going to change to reflect that size as well. Then next up, we say, okay, the physics body has a category bit mask, right, of collision types dot rocket. So remember, collision types dot rocket. The attacker has collision types dot attacker, right? And go back down here. We have to say raw value because we need to get to that int32, right? Just saying collision types dot rocket, it's gonna complain, right? When we try to compile it, because it's not going to know what it is. It's expecting an integer. So we're saying get the raw value, of which on rocket, the raw value is 4, and the raw value for the attacker is 2. Hopefully that makes sense. Again, ask in the chat room if you have any questions. But it turns out that this is a regular pattern thing that you do. And so the code may be a little verbose here right now. I'm sure there's a better way to clean this up now that I got it working. And then the next thing we say is, okay, the rocket physics body has a contact test bit mask, which is a fancy name for just saying, look, here's the thing that you're going to test against to see if this was hit, right? So again, the rocket has one and the attacker has one. So, again, the one that we're going to test against in this case, the rocket, we will test to see if it's hit the attacker raw value. The attacker, as you will see, will test to see if it's hit the rocket raw value, right? And then finally we say, look, collision bit mask for the rocket is 2, okay? And I've also set this one here. This is key. One of the items in the scene in our game here has to have a dynamic set to true. You don't want to have all of them set that way for the purpose of what I'm doing here with this game, but you do want to have one of them, so I set it to rocket. If the reason being is if you don't have one of them set to true, and in my case I've set the other one, attacker, to false, it won't fire because it's not really testing against, they're nothing for them to test against each other. So just set one of them to true, life works out great. Turns out that that's basically the way to put that. Again, the final part, we've seen this before. Let me go down to the attacker, show you the same thing, right? So the attacker, physics body, rectangle, like I say, rectangle of the attacker.size. The category bit mask is attacker.raw value. And then finally on this one, we set the physics body is dynamic to false. All right. And that's it, right? So ironically, it's all the code that we basically wrote last week. The difference being is that now, because it's in this file, right, that, is compatible with SK Scene as opposed to UI View Controller, it just works, which I suspected after the stream. I was like, wait a minute, maybe there's a reason this is set up like this and it's not done in the View Controller, and it seems to work. So I'm assuming that that was the problem. So Cocoa type, that was the problem, basically, I believe. And let's change my windows there. So let's now go ahead and run this. Now, one other thing I want to point out is, like I say, the difference is we didn't have this part last week, right? So we create a score, we put it on the screen, it's going to be 0 if, in fact, sorry, I didn't cover this part, the did begin, right? So if it detects that one of the items hits another one, which is the part that was not functioning last week, it will now call this did begin. And what it does is it has 2 parts, right? So the contact mask, we say, okay, body A and body B, right? And then we're going to say, okay, we'll do a quick switch here and we'll say contact mask. What is it? Is it 2 or 4? Now you may be wondering where those numbers come from. Hopefully what you're going to realize is it's these numbers right here, okay? So we're saying, because the cases are for 2 and 4, we're saying it's either, if it's either the attacker or the rocket, then okay, great, we want to do something. Otherwise, if it's not those, it's just going to hit, for now, it's going to print a message that says, it wasn't the attacker, it wasn't the rocket, it was something else. Maybe it was the player, whatever, something else that we'll deal with. So it'll just print some other contact occurred. Coco Type says, let's have a look. I ended up getting pulled away, missing most of last stream. So I'm not really sure what was going wrong then. Okay, so in the last stream, you got lucky, because if you didn't have to see the disaster of my contact collision detection not working, you saved yourself the heartache of seeing that, and me the embarrassment of seeing it not work. Basically, everything, all the code we've got here, except for the score counter, is the same code as I had last week, but I had it in the UI View Controller, and I think that's why the did begin was not working. So this time around, I've basically, using SK Scene. So instead of having the Game View Controller do all the work, I've just left this alone, the one that you get when you create a new SpriteKit game. I've left the game scene in and it's completely empty, but it's still using the custom class of game scene, which is the one Xcode creates. And so instead of putting the code in game view controller, I've put it in game scene. That's, funny enough, that's really the only difference, which you wouldn't think would be that big a deal, but turns out somewhere along the way that is the deal, and that's why this now works and it didn't previously. So, as I was saying, once if it turns out that it is the attacker or the rocket that collided with something, we want to do something, right? So the first thing I do is I take that basic integer variable, the player score, and I just increment it by 1 for now, right? It was just a thing of like, just show me that I got some score. I hit something and I scored a point, right? And so that's what that does. I then call the update player score, which, like I say, re-updates, or it doesn't re-update, it updates the label on the screen with the new player score value, which the first time around, 0 plus 1 is 1, right? 2, 3, so you get the idea. And then the next thing that we want to do is, okay, so the rocket and the rocket and the attacker collided. We should remove both of them from the screen, okay? Because we successfully shot it and we're ready to go again. Well, now because we've removed it from the screen, we've got to have something that says, all right, well, we got to start again now. So what I do here, what I found was some really weird behavior if you don't remove the actions first. I think what was happening, the actions of the items moving up and down the screen were still happening whilst it was going through this update cycle to remove them. So you get some really weird, strange effects happening with some slow weirdness and everything else. So what I've done here is I remove all the actions for the rocket, remove all the actions for the attacker, and then I remove them from the parent. In fact, this one actually should. Let's put it in that order, right? Now, once I've removed the actions and removed them from the screen, we need them to come back again so we can keep playing, right? No much of a game if you have just once and then great, you killed it, well done. So what we do is we call the add rocket and the add attacker again, which starts us over again, right? So in the case of add attacker, for example, right, as we know, it's going to choose again a random location at the top of the screen, create it, reapply the physics body and everything else, add it to the scene on the screen, and then start running again. If they don't collide, our normal completion handler runs here from the actions, right? So it'll remove itself from the screen when it gets to the bottom, re-add itself at the top, and start over. CocoType says, why bitwise or in the case statement? To be honest, it was just the way that I just wrote it out that way quickly. I think eventually this will probably change because you're going to have more than these kind of, you're going to have more than one thing hitting something else on the screen. But I just verbosely wrote this out as I was thinking through the problem and coming up with the correct solution for it. I think this will probably change as the amount of stuff on the screen grows and the other collision detections for various things happen. Like, for example, the attacker hitting the player, for example, right? You would want a different test for that and some different stuff going on. So I don't think eventually it'll end up this way. For now, it's just set out that way because this is what I got during the week and got it running, right? And it was one of those where I wanted to make sure, okay, it runs, the problem is solved. I'll show you all at the weekend now, and then we sort of take it from there. Does that make sense to CocoType? Hopefully it does. So let's go ahead and after I've babbled on and gone through all this, we'll run it just to show you that it does now work. So I'm not hitting the ship. It just moves down, goes back to the top of the screen exactly like it did before. But if I go along and hit the ship now disappears. So does the rocket, and I scored a point, right? And this was basically the one part that we didn't have last week. I haven't updated the move code yet for tapping and pressing down and everything else. This week was solely just I wanted to find the solution for the collision detection, and now I gotta wait for the ship to get close because I'm trying to tap here on my little tap pad. So there you go, 2 points. But at the end of the day, yay, we got it working, and I really do believe, at least based on the differences between the code I've got now and the code I had last week, it's because it's not in the view controller, it's in the SK scene file, and that's why the did begin works. So that's it, right? You can see that it's working now. So everybody can celebrate that we had the right code. It was just not in the right place. Now, one thing I want to show you that was useful for debugging this, and turns out I think it's going to be useful for debugging any of this kind of problem. This one line here, I'm going to uncomment here. And what I'm setting up is basically saying, okay, view, the overall view of the game, dot shows physics equals true. I'm going to now just leave that like that, and I'll run it. And if you look, hopefully it'll come out on the stream, you will notice there's a little box. It shows the hit, think of it as the hitbox, but it's really the bit mask, right? But it's showing the area on the bullet and on the ship. And if you may not be able to see, it's very, very thin. But it's a good for visually debugging, because if it turns out that the collision mask and all the physics stuff is not applied to your sprite, you're going to see it here because there won't be a box around something when there should be. So this is a really nice little extra debug thing that we've got going on here. And it's also a way of knowing that, okay, everything got attached the way it should be because I'm seeing it here on the screen. So I just wanted to show that, right? So for example, you can see there isn't one on the player because we haven't created anything for that one yet. I'm going to go ahead and stop that. So that's just a nice little debug that I've got in there. I'm going to go and grab me a drink so everybody can celebrate that victory and we got it working while I'm gone. And Coco Type, this is your time to riot, buddy. And I will be right back. Oh, hold on. My own treachery. Are you planning on adding a shoot button? Hello and welcome. Thank you, first of all, for your comments and reaching out over the last week or so. Greatly appreciate them. So thank you for dropping by. I was, this is one of those things where I tell you what, let me, yeah, you made it. Well done. Thank you. Yeah, I'm so glad you're here. I'm not going to run away and running away from you just because you're here. I'll be right back. I'm going to grab a drink and then we will talk about that and some of our next decisions about the gameplay and how we do this, because I think that the button that you're asking there is the right one, right? And it's something we need to ask ourselves about any game that we do on a touch device, and keeping the controls usable. So I'm gonna go run and grab a drink. I will be right back. Talk amongst yourselves in the chat room for a minute, and I'll be right back. Thank you. All right, I am back, and I see. So I see the Coco type. Last week he tried to get me with the, "Hey, this should be an Apple TV app, Apple TV game," and then this week looks like he is gonna try and make me turn it into a watch game. Funny enough, I thought of a really interesting way you could play this game with a watch. Let me show you. So, not that not that I think this is a good idea, but I don't think anyone else would have done this, and I'm going to give this idea freely to someone. So hopefully you can see, right, the watch. So if you imagine the spaceship, the player moving across the screen, I thought, hey, you could use the digital crown, right, to move the player across the screen in landscape mode, kind of like those old school Atari games, if anyone remembers those. And you can have that idea for free. So there you go. Leo Carrillo. I think I pronounced that right. Thank you so much. I greatly appreciate it. And Steve Hudson, thank you so much. I appreciate it. Hopefully that's not everybody voting for me to make the Watch OS version of this game, but hey, maybe, right. But thank you. Anil Kumar, thank you. Sorry, did I get that right? Anil Kumar Nair, I think that is. Thank you so much. Yeah, so let's talk about where are all these folks coming from? Pierre Dumerot, thank you. So let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about this fire button. I'm thinking there's three ways. And Rogerio Ferraz, thank you so much. Where are these folks coming? Where are you all coming from? I'd love to know. Thank you. Maybe viewers on YouTube. Let's have a look. I got to look at the numbers here. Guy 13. Let's have a look here. Concurrent viewers. Not a huge amount. Coco type. I do not know. This is going to be a challenge. Yeho Sidelinkov. Did I am certain I pronounced that badly. Thank you so much. Felix Leitenberger. Now I'm getting worried. It's like, hang on a minute. Has suddenly someone found how amazing my code is? Is this the difference between code working this week and code not working last week? Megan Wilson, thank you so much. You got to wonder, like, where did all these folks come from, right? Maybe it is because it's like, well done. He finally wrote some code that worked. Alejandro Palares, thank you so much. Any growth is good growth. Thank you. Yeah, this is phenomenal growth. So, as I was saying, three ways that I'm thinking about. Is that Jungmin or Youngmin on? I think that is. Thank you so much. Three ways to play this, I think. And it's a real toss-up as to which way round we think this should go. Mario Peck, thank you. There's three options, I think, as far as the gameplay for this style. One, we have it like it does now. It constantly, Vasily oh goodness, Mororu. I'm sorry if I got that wrong. My braces make it hard to say something sometimes. Mark Light, thank you. So what I think is, one, the ship, we move the ship and it constantly fires. That is definitely the easiest gameplay style. Daniel Hibbets, thank you so much. Right? We have it moving. All we do is move it and it fires for us like we have now. That is by far the easiest on a screen of any size, right? You basically can use two thumbs. Okay. Raymond Villasenor, Senor, thank you. That's number one. The second option is that we have a fire button. Now, ormstu.com, thank you. Now, the next option is that we have a fire button, but now you've got to move. Coco type, I have no idea. I don't know if everything's gone nuts, but Bill Chen, hopefully these are real people. Not to insult anybody, I don't mean it like that, but it's just bizarre. Hang on, my My screen is updating slowly here. Hang on. My iPad as my second screen is having a hard time keeping up. Let me just change something here for 1 second. Give me 1 minute. I'm just going to change the screen here. There we go. So it updates. Okay. Hey, Nicholas. Didn't know you were out there. Hey, buddy. Revenish, thank you. So as this is all playing, right, the second option is we move and then we hit a button to fire. That's more complicated to play, but it's not a terrible way to play, right? And then the third option is, let me think. I thought of the third option. I got distracted by all these subscribers. Let me think. So that was the first two options. The third one, so we've got one, it automatically fires. We just move it. Two, we move it and fire. Oh yeah, the third one was we don't, we leave it automatically firing and move it because then it leaves our fingers free for tapping power-ups or some other game mechanism, some super weapon that charges over time, something like that. So I'm leaning towards letting it fire automatically. Thank you, everybody. I'm definitely gonna have to go look at. I have 1.25K subscribers on YouTube. My YouTube channel, I had 1.2 something on YouTube to begin with. So that would be about right on YouTube. I had about 1.23K subscribers or something like that. I don't know, buddy. I don't know, Coco Type. I see we've got 6 viewers. So on here, I am puzzled. I would delighted to see all these. I guess the subscribe is working and it's not gone weird on me, which, hey, could happen. It's Christmas. I don't know. I'll have to look into it in a second. Just so you know, I'm running my iPad as a second screen here, and it's got Stream Studio on there, which is where I see all the chat and everything else. Option 3 seems the best, you think? Maybe could leave it fire automatically and could implement an upgrade fire speed power up. That's what I'm thinking too. Option 3, thank you for the feedback, because I was going to throw it out there and say to you, well, what do you think? I know for me, the simpler the games are on a small screen, on a small screen, and the simpler the controls, in some ways the more addictive it is to play if it does things like firing for me and I just have to move. Because like now I've just left it running, right? And I've got 10 points for doing nothing. So yay me. I can actually play my own game. How about that? At this point, I'm just going to say thank you to everyone for the subscriptions, because I can't keep up with it all. So thank you. We'll have to play it back and figure it all out later, Coco Type. Coco Type, we should definitely raid you today. So that's what I think too. I was thinking about this and I thought, well, now I've got the collision working. The reason I think number 3 is the good one is I was thinking this should be one, maybe instead of levels, right? We're not going to have just one enemy like this. This mechanic and this gameplay and these graphics we got on the screen were designed for me to make something happen with SpriteKit that works and doesn't suck like it did last week. So yeah, got there. The next thing is now, okay, well, surprise, it worked. What are you going to do with it? I'm thinking this would be one of those, instead of levels, infinite shooter games, right? It just keeps going like this. And there'll be different waves, different things, whatever. But instead of levels, it just keeps going. And, maybe when you miss it, shooting it, the attacker gets past you without you hitting it with a bullet, you lose something from your score, right? So your score is going up and down depending on whether you hit something or whether you miss it. And by doing that system and this kind of, infinite play approach, You can keep playing it for as long as you want, or you can go away and come back and keep going. And we can introduce things like power ups or something else that you can tap with your thumb, or something you tap somewhere on the screen to give you some kind of bonus, like an extra ship or speed the bullet up. I was also thinking that, hey, maybe the higher your score gets, the faster the attacker's going to get, which means it might, the quicker it moves, more of a threat for lowering your score. And then the power ups for the bullets, maybe the bullets fly quicker. And also, if we don't, what we could do, here's a thought, right? Right, my own treachery, here's a good example. Maybe one of the power ups is that, a button appears on the screen when you get a certain power up that's like an exploding bullet. And when the bullet gets near the spaceship, right, the attacker, and you're not in line to hit it, you can tap it and it explodes, and it has kind of like a radius effect and will kill anything around it, right? So in that case, you wouldn't want to fire it, and then you want to leave your hands free so you can move it and then just tap to activate the power up when you want it. Does that make sense? That to me sounds like an interesting mechanic that you might want to play around with, something we might want to look at. Sounds like a good idea. Thank you. Because I really want this to be something we all grow with together, and, see where this can go, right? I'm starting to think that these ideas that I've had and the discussions that I've had with you all, hey, maybe there's actually something here I should make and release just for the fun of it. And that's when I thought, well, now I got to think about levels. So this idea of this infinite play comes into it there, that you can still kill off the play and start again. Maybe if you get, if you're really terrible and have slow reaction times like old man me, and you get to minus 300 on your score, you may want to start over. So there will be something for that. And now we have to also think about screens, right? Okay, we should have a menu screen, and we've got the game screen and some other ones. And then, we can take this a step further from here and start to think about a high scoreboard against other players, and all this kind of stuff. Now that we've got this very simple, and I say that with the love for what I've done here, because I didn't know any of this before I started this on SpriteKit, right? I have written plenty of apps and I know about apps, but games are a completely different beast. But now we've got some real potential here to do some stuff with this. My own treasury says, could even have a little side panel that can hold the power-ups, the way you could stockpile them and then click them wanted to trigger them. Really good idea. I do like that. Yeah, that's a good idea. So, if you, maybe the power-up, you either have to fly through it or you got to tap it on the screen to collect it. But instead of it being an instant one, or maybe there are some that are instant ones, yes, I like this idea that you gather them up in a inventory, and you can either use them in any order you want by tapping one, or maybe it just shows you like these are the ones you've got, and you use one and you can see the next one and so on. That's a very interesting game mechanic. I do like that idea. So that's something we can do there as well. I love the fact, by the way, that I got 18 points and I haven't done squat. And I should tell you that maybe part of the idea that I had for this game came about because I don't know if anyone's familiar with them, but I love idle games, right? And those are the games that you play, but they keep playing for you, essentially. Like you can just leave it alone and it plays for you, and you interact with it whenever you choose to, right? And that's kind of what's going on here, right? I'm looking at the average here so far. I don't know how many I've hit and how many I've missed, but it could almost play itself for you. And this idea of idle games is just that, right? Sometimes it's doing something in the background. I do have one on the Android platform. Don't say it. I wrote it with Unity. I released it on Android to see. It was like one of those, I just want to release a game, and I did. Maybe one day I'll tell you what it's called. I don't know. We'll see. I'm working on the iOS version, but I don't know. It's I don't want to say it's embarrassing because it's exactly what I wanted it to be. Uh, I'll ask you in the chat room. Do you want to hear what it is? Yeah, I love the idea that I'm winning and I'm not even doing anything. This is the best game ever. um, but I do have an Android one. It's written in Unity, which is why I haven't mentioned it here because it's not written in. I could at this point, now that I know this much, probably write it in SpriteKit, and maybe that would be a good fun. But maybe if you all shout loud enough, I'll tell you what the website for the game is. Twitch.tv/compile Unity. Surely it's, Coco Type, nice idea, but wouldn't it be like, wouldn't Unity compile sound better? I don't know. Maybe my whole universe will compile everything, right? Compile Swift, compile Perl. I should maybe that's my empire that I never realized, and that's how I become rich and famous. All this talking is just maybe, but it's got to keep up the Compile X brand. You're true. So yeah, it would have to be Compile Unity, right? Compile Unity, compile DirectX. What else do we have? One thing, so get a little off topic here, but really not. I would dearly love to write a game for a Nintendo Switch one day because I love the Nintendo Switch. And you can do that with Unity. Different thing. And I should say I do have a separate Twitch and everything else that I use for stuff that's not that, which is I'll tell you what it is. I've only just started it again recently. UI Buzz, UIBUZZ is the name on Unity. On Twitch, and there's a UIBuzz.com, and that's me as well. That's my everything that's not Swift and Apple stuff. I think I do my game streams on there if I remember rightly. So we've got some good ideas going here. Thank you to everybody, and I think we should work and play and implement them all because this is all about fun and exploration, and there's no reason we cannot try and explore those. I got to get to 30 points before I stop this, right? At this point, I got to get to 30 points to save my own dignity. So I'm going to try real hard to get a point here. The control mechanism, like I say, I haven't updated with some code that... There we go. Yeah, 30. I haven't updated with some code that Coco Type did. We had a great... For those of you who weren't around for it, Twitch.tv compile this, can cover everything. I like it. Yeah, compile this. I feel like there should be two, right? There should be the compile this and compile that. And then we can ping pong them off each other. So I should do one. Someone else should have the other one. But we did a thing a couple of weeks ago where I was trying to update the movement so that you could tap and hold and it would move instead of having to keep tapping to move the ship. And it was a great little fun thing what we did. And I'm going to promote Coco Type here. If you've not seen Coco Type's stream, you should definitely watch it. He's very talented. And he won't mind me saying that. So I uploaded the code for the game, and I then immediately raided his channel, where he then changed the code. That was a great little kind of pair programming live stream thing that we did. That's a lot of fun. That was great fun. I wish there was a way, there probably is, that you can do pair programming and share two people's streams on one. I'm sure there's a way you could do it if you could figure it out. All right, the cooking channel, compiled food. Oh, dude, me cooking channel, really? I could do that. I don't mind calling it compiled food if you're talking about me eating it. You can sit and watch me eat all day. That's just fine. Me cooking, that would be worse than my code. I found that the other day. One sec, let me look it up again. Okay, because that would be a lot of fun too. To have, there's so much collaboration between on software and platforms. There should be one for streaming. All right, I got 33 points here. So let's go ahead and stop this. So let's start by doing one of these things, right? And let me know. Hopefully the code's big enough. I'm on my small screen here today. In fact, let me tweak it here because I noticed as I'm looking here that edge of the window. You're not really missing anything here, but I noticed that the edge of the window is missing. So hold on 1 second. At worst, you're just missing a little bit of code. So let me just resize it. Normally, I have my code editor up on my 27-inch screen. I'm just using my MacBook Pro 14-inch today. So I'm going to rescale that there a little bit. There you go. Okay. So all you've missed is seeing the bottom lines of code, really. Let's get it about nice. There you go. About nice. Well, Coco Type, I think it's settled down again. So to all the subscribers and followers, thank you so much. Appreciate that. What a huge Christmas present, assuming that not everything went wrong. What an amazing day, right? And to have everybody in chat that I've spoken with on different platforms as well today. What a great honor to have you all here. Thank you so much. Like I say, I love the fact that we have so many great people in the chat room. It's just wonderful. Okay. So why don't we do this, right? What I'm thinking is the first and easiest thing to implement this week, since we've done so well, I should make some code that doesn't work now, right? Because it's not the same if we just have code that works. What's the fun in that? You've got to have something that doesn't work. Otherwise, people aren't going to believe I wrote the code. So I'm thinking down here, when the attacker gets to the bottom and I've not hit it, and hey, I messed up, didn't kill the attacker, let's now remove it from the score. That should be a very, here you go, famous last words, folks. That should be a very simple thing to do. So that's going to kill that off right there, right? Because I'm pretty sure I said, well, the collision detection thing should be simple, and we saw how that worked out. So fingers crossed, everybody. Let me just check the rooms here. All right. Okay. Oh, there we go. Let's get that up there. All right. Let's do this. So it should be, fingers crossed, it should be as simple as doing the reverse of what we've done up here. So let's go back up here, right? So we've got the, let's just take these two lines, right? This should be all we need. Down here on our attacker. So when our attacker gets to the bottom of the screen and we remove it and we re-add it to the top of the screen, before all of that happens, let's be a big Mr. Grinchy Meanie and remove one from the score and update it. Now, immediately, I'm going to hit a problem. Of course, right? Oh, okay. Yeah. All right. That's an easy one, theoretically. So let's go ahead and now run this. And that should be, look at that, one feature, just like that. So this should go to, yeah, I'm already losing. Suddenly, if I leave it now, what do you think? I bet I'm not going to get to 33 again, right? Coco Type says, oh, it's just a waitlisted sign up to be notified page so far. Okay, well, it's not me, I promise. All right, come on. So suddenly I'm not doing so great on the score, you see? We thought 30 something for sitting here doing nothing was good, right? Now I feel compelled to try and get this. Remember how we were saying about we need that reset start again button? It's feeling pretty important right now. There you go. Oh, look, I'm going to lose the point again already. Time to hit minus 30. Hey, I can be the first person to get plus 30, and I can be the first person to get minus 30. Not a problem. I could... Is it cheating if I hack my own game to increase the speed of the ship so that I can get there quicker? I really don't want to get to minus 30. Hang on. Yeah, I'm not going to get to minus 30. I'm going to tell all of you that I'm just doing this to check that the speed variable is working. All right, so player move speed 5, 10. Let's just make sure that's working. It's got nothing to do with me wanting to get a better score. It's probably not going to help me much, is it? Suddenly I hate my own game. Okay, yeah. Oh, see? Look, I swear I didn't make those come up like that. Oh my God. Just +1, back to 0. But hey, I got into the plus range. Oh man, there's no way. I don't think I can get 30 like this. I don't know. No, oh geez. Okay, now I definitely need to implement the new move mechanism code. Uh, my own Treasury says, question, are you planning on having more than one attacker on screen at the same time? Just wondering about scalability. Yes. When I originally had the idea to do this, I had very much in mind the idea of, the old school, like, the old school kind of aliens, right? Invaders, where alien invaders, whatever it was called, they come down in packs, right? That was the original idea. But instead of doing packs, I think it would be interesting to have it ramp up. So, you know, after I've killed one, say 5 times, well, now there's two, right? So that threat level goes up, but hopefully you're also going to be getting power ups. So, like we were saying about that area of effect explosion, maybe I get a few aliens in that one, a few attackers, and get points that way. So yes, that's what I was thinking, and because it also presented me the next challenge, which was, what if I want them to fly around in a screen in a pattern like you do with these kind of games, right? Well, now that gives me something else to work on. That is like, okay, how do you do that with paths and that kind of stuff? And do I make a library of those paths and those movements, and then randomly call one so that you don't get to know the patterns and can predict where they're going to come next, right? Does that make sense? So that's what I'm thinking should be a thing on this. And it presents a good technical challenge for me to step up the skills even further and come up with that. So hopefully that's what you was hoping to hear. Yeah, one alien like this is proving enough of a challenge, right? But there will definitely be more than one. Hey, I may get to the -30 after all. Um, so that's what I'm thinking. Yes, there will be some kind of patterns like we see on those kind of old school arcade machine kind of Space Invader type stuff, right? A lot of the idea behind doing this, like I say originally, was to step up the challenge as I achieve things, learning SpriteKit, maybe eventually Scene Kit with some 3D as well, because it might be interesting to have some depth, right? Um, you did it -30. Yeah. For future reference, structs are a good way to manage it. Thank you. Yes. Because I was thinking that there will be a library of sorts, and a struct is a good suggestion for doing that. So thank you for that. I will definitely look into that. Um, these are great challenges, but also things that I think will add some interest to the game. I don't want it to be predictable, right? So you know how it is, right? We've all played those games where you as you play it, and you get further along each time, but now you know where they're going to appear on the screen for the first 10 levels. You're already moving there before they get that. That's fine, but I want this to be more of a challenge. So I want it to be random. You might start to recognize some patterns, but you won't necessarily know which pattern's going to come next or where it may enter from the screen. So that it does become a challenge, right? Especially since this is, the idea of this being some kind of infinite scroller kind of game. There's not going to be that, oh, yeah, the first 3 levels has them come in from the left and spin around, whatever. We don't want that. That's too predictable. We want this to be a real, not a frustrating challenge, but I want it to, it needs to be something that's fresh enough that every time you play it, you don't necessarily know what you're going to get in what order. And so it feels like, okay, you're dealing with a new problem every time, but with familiar mechanics, right? Um, I, I, I hey, -50. Oh, come on, -50 now, right? I got to get -50. I'm not even gonna. Oh, look, I'll try for this one. There you go, minus 50. And I'm tapping on the wrong side of the screen. Oh my gosh. I'm tapping on either side of the tap pad like it matters. I'm doing it as if it was a device. Okay. The other important thing here as well to notice is, I know this is a very simple game, but it's nice to see that the steady 60 frames per second, right? That I liked seeing that on the screen with the 5 nodes to keep track of everything. All right, so that's our setup there with the minus score. Okay, let's do that. Let's get rid of that. I'm trying to figure out what is the next sensible thing to do. Like I say, I was wondering about playing around as well with this idea of the 3D, right? So maybe when certain things happen, you have some, like that, again, the kind of old school, but with a twist. You have like that 3D text that comes up and feels like it's coming towards you kind of effect, right? And so there's some kind of effect, that it's 3D text and then goes off the screen, right? So it's not all just 2D. And then maybe under certain conditions, like certain power-ups, it has more of a 3D effect, so that maybe instead of seeing like an explosion in kind of a 2D sprite approach, it actually is a 3D explosion on the screen, so that if it's like a spherical explosion, it looks like one, because it is, right? To have that blend of a 2D and 3D, and maybe sometimes I've seen that and it works really well. You're on the fancy new MacBook Pro though, shouldn't it be 120 frames per second? Well, I guess now that Safari has 120 frames per second, I do feel the pressure. What about if it's like, yes, it's 120 frames on my screen here. I don't know what the problem is on the screen. And I'll say it again, love the new screen on the MacBook Pro. Oh my goodness. All right, so we're kicking around a whole bunch of different ideas here, but a whole lot of very cool suggestions, and I think we should basically do them all somehow along the way, right? Now, if I figure, hey, if we can get this far and do this, great. We must be able to step it up to the next part, right? And then I'm also what I feel is going to be a good difficult challenge is going to be a multiplayer scoreboard, because that is something I've never done again in a game, and I think I should. Right? I think that would be definitely that in a game like this, competing against, feeling like you're beating other people is a big part of that. Addictiveness is the wrong word, but that wanting to go back and keep playing. My Own Treachery says, have you looked into SK emitter nodes? You can make effects like explosions and then add them to the attacker position when you kill them. I haven't, but I'm wondering, it sounds like the same kind of emitter nodes that you have in Unity, where similar kind of thing. You pre-describe, pre-build the pattern for the effect, and then you can say, oh, and this node has that effect, right? So in this case, I think it's similar to what you're describing. So like you could use an emitter node and take advantage of all the fancy metal calculations and all those cool things to make a really nice explosive effect that's 3D when the attacker disappears. That would be fantastic. I've not done anything like that. Have you done anything like that? My Own Treachery, have you done anything like that? Because I know that you said you've done some SpriteKit. That is something I would definitely be interested in playing around with, because I also want to make as much of the graphics real time as possible to try and keep performance. It's surprisingly simple. You have fantastic. Okay, that's on the list, buddy. So you're gonna have to turn up and help us with that one. That is definitely something I will look at then. Thank you for that. Yeah, because like I say, if I want that to be those, what is it they call it? The pleasant surprises, right? That takes a normal game and adds a little twist that makes you go, huh, that's cool, right? Those are always the things that has me going back to games and stuff like that. So, there's another option we could do here as well, sort of as we're in this kind of planning discussion. Maybe maybe you would go the route of, on a bigger picture, you could have some like mission things like games have, like, kill X amount of whatever type of alien. Today's mission is kill 50 of this type, and you get some money that then allows you to buy upgrades, right, for your ship and all that kind of stuff. We've seen it before, right? But all of the things that, maybe in some way you have some kind of autopilot system or something that would somehow play into that idea of this idle gameplay, that if you don't want to interact with it, but you've earned enough money and bought the right things for your ship, maybe it plays it for you a little bit, right? It's not going to be the same as when you're playing it, but maybe there's like an idle mode where you can essentially just put your phone to one side, or your device, I should say, to one side, and it's going to play for you for a little bit to keep you moving on, bit of a, because a lot of the idle and those kind of infinite games have a bit of a grind kind of aspect to them. Sounds good to you? Yep. Excellent. Thank you. We got lots of potential here for stuff. And, taking this to a whole place where it's like, whoa, we really got something going here, right? Because I just, what's nice about this, there is by far even less code here than I would have to write in Unity to make exactly the same game, which is nice. Because I prefer Swift, I'm not a big C++, C# writer, and I don't want to have too many languages in my head. It's bad enough that I have to remember JavaScript for React Native and all that stuff as well, that I would rather stay focused on the Swift and not have to deal with C#. Nothing against C#, but the more languages you put in the head, you know how it is. Like, I think one point last week I was writing Swift and was doing arrow functions, and then I realized, like, wait a minute, that's JavaScript. That kind of stuff. All right, fantastic. So we got a bunch of cool stuff. I'm going to have to play back my own stream this week to take down notes for all of the things. But I think we should do all of these things. And I like to do them, like I say, live in front of everybody. I know that can be it's frustrating for me. I'm sure it's frustrating for all of you watching when it doesn't work. But, well, a big thing with me, for those of you that are new to watching this channel and any of the content that I do on compileswift.com, and that is transparency, of giving back as much as I can from what I learned to everybody else that's helped me over the years to get where I am. To, writing mobile apps is my day job, it's my profession. And so if I can give something back by way of these streams to everybody else to inspire someone to start doing it, or help them on their career path or anything like that, that's what I want to do. So I really want to do as much of this as I can in public for you to see it. The only thing like this week that you didn't see was where I wrote this code to test it before it fouled again this week, which it didn't, thankfully. 2 weeks in a row would have been terrible. So that's all good stuff, and we will do all that. And what a fantastic way to, I think we're gonna tempted to sort of wrap it here this week. Coco Type, are you gonna, I'm curious, buddy, are you gonna do a stream at all? Like I say, if you've not seen Coco Type's streams and following him, you definitely should. He's really good at Swift. No pressure, but he's really good at Swift. Also pressure him to write more Mac app stuff. Yeah. Not tonight, tomorrow night, probably. Okay, there you go. Definitely everyone tomorrow night, check out Coco Type's stream. I may try and get more streams out this week, by the way, and if I do, I'll tweet them and update the schedule in that, because look for Compile Swift anywhere, right? At Compile Swift on Twitter and that. Same on Facebook, facebook.com/compilesw, I believe it is. Because I'm on vacation, yay, for the next couple of weeks, and that gives me a chance to write and play with my own apps, including this stuff. So if I find that I've got some time to get some extra streams out and move some of our ideas forward here, definitely want to do that. You found me. You found him. Good. Yeah, Coco Type's channel is fantastic. He does a lot of awesome stuff in there, and he's written some fantastic apps as well. And that, so yeah, definitely follow him. And boy, what a week it's been, right? I don't know what the craziness was earlier on with you're working on a game yourself. Oh, you are gonna have to tell us about this game. Are you is it something that we might get to see soon? But definitely keep us in the loop. You should definitely keep us updated as well. Your son asked you to make one. That's what got you into it. Fantastic. There's nothing better than someone, asking you to do something and then it, or a sort of a self-serving game or app. So fantastic. Yeah, definitely keep us in the loop on that. And if you're writing it up anywhere or anything like that, would definitely be interested in seeing that and seeing how it's going and everything else. So please, yeah, please do drop us, feel free to drop notes in this channel if you're here, or, you know, um, anywhere else that you are, just let me know, and you'll definitely get follows from me on stuff. So awesome. Love seeing people make things. That's part of the that was part of the inspiration for me doing some of this, was seeing other people do it, and I thought, I can do that. Not I can do that better or anything. It's like I want to do that, and so great. I love to see people writing stuff. You're using Gameplay Kit and SpriteKit. Fantastic. I've not used Gameplay Kit yet. And obviously, as I've said, this is my first introduction with SpriteKit. And the reason being, by the way, that I've not done anything up until now, I was always intimidated when I saw this and was like, what the hell's going on here? So I know that this has some animation and stuff in here and all that. I know I'm going to have to look at this at some point, and I'm certainly going to learn it and work with it there. I did it all in code here because for me, the code, reading the code here makes sense, right? I know what's going on. I know when it should be going on and things like that. And a lot of this, a lot of the stuff in this other one was like, all right, I see where I lay them out on the screen. This reminded me of kind of the Unity 2D graphics approach, where it's like, I see it, it's going to lay it out, I get that, but hooking it up with code and everything else. So I thought, why not just write it in code? I'm sure there'll be a mix eventually. To be honest, the SKS files are frustrating. Much more control in raw code. I absolutely agree. I found that it's even when you're writing apps, right? You're doing before we had Swift UI, we had storyboards, which was still a marked improvement from where it was. But oh boy, my developers on my team that work with me and that, they pull their hair out all the time. Once those constraints, nightmare, right? Once they get complicated, and on our apps, they get extremely complicated, especially once you start hiding and showing things and everything else. So yeah, I get it. It's so much easier to control this stuff with code and have know what's going on than trusting that these constraints that you laid out in interface builder are going to do all the right things, because they never do. SKS files equals nibs. Yes, yeah, SKS scene equals UI kit code. We need a Swift Sprite. Wait, is that like Swift Sprite is in a soda, right? You could have like, hey, there's someone needs to do that. Someone who's really good with video should do now needs to go away and do a, hey, I drink Swift Sprite and my code compiles. This is just Coke. It's not Swift Sprite. I'm not sponsored by Coke. Any soda is good. Yeah. All right. Excellent. Okay. Let's see. So I think what we might do is, we have done a lot this week, and we got thankfully, hey, how often does this happen? At the end of a session, all the code is working. It doesn't happen very often, right? What I might do this week, then, just between now and the next time we stream, like I say, I'm not going to do anything in the background as far as, oh, look, I did this and it works. The only reason I did it this week was because I knew I had to rewrite all this code, and I really didn't want to make you all sit through seeing the same code as you saw last week in a different format. But this week, I think I may work on the graphics a little bit. I've been looking for a good excuse. Way back in a previous life, I also did a lot of 3D modeling. And I've been looking for an excuse to sit and play with Blender, which is a 3D modeling app, fantastic app. And I actually thought, well, you know what? I should model the graphics here for the spaceships and that. Maybe I should model something in Blender and then, uh, render those out as sprites, 2D sprites, but they would look a lot better with the lighting from 3D and everything else than if I tried to draw them with 2D and then bring those in as assets. So I may do a stream on my other one, like I say, UI Buzz. I may do a stream of me playing around with Blender either this week or something like that as well, and I'll tweet it out on Compile Swift for those that are interested, because to me, like I say, it's all part of the app development, right? It's not just writing the code here, it's creating the graphics. And if you're someone who's new to creating games, and I've had people reach out, hello to you all, asking me questions about, how to get started with games and that. So I'm thinking, well, you probably would be interested in knowing how to make the graphics and everything else as well. It's not going to be an in-depth thing, but just seeing the graphic, export it, bring it over as an asset, got it here to write the code. If you've not done that, that can seem intimidating, so that's something I'll cover as well. So I may do a 3D modeling one in the week. Coco Type says, after all the subscribers you got tonight, you can probably swing a Coke sponsorship. Coco Type, I'm really kind of freaked out and worried now about what happened. If, I'm delighted to see it. Thank you so much, everybody. I don't know what happened. I'm hoping it wasn't a glitch in the system. And it's just me sitting here with a couple of folks in the chat room all by myself. I really hope not, because I love doing this and I want to keep doing this for everybody, and I will keep doing this for everybody. But I'm really freaked out as to where all the attention came from. So for all of you that subscribed and followed today, thank you so much. Let me know how you heard about this, where you heard about this, because I'd love to know what magic thing happened this week that hasn't happened before, because I'd love to share it with Coco Type so he can become rich and famous. And everybody else, right? Okay, I think we're there this week. It's been it's 10 o'clock here for me on Sunday. I want to sit down and do some Blender before I go to bed tonight. I'm going to be up for a couple of hours anyway. I got a bit of game playing to do this week, and I need to go back and rewatch my own stream to make notes of all these cool, awesome things that we're going to put in, thanks to all of you. So I guess that's it for this week, this weekend. Anyway, like I say, going to do some more stuff. I also need to record a new podcast episode for Compile Swift and put that out. So keep an eye on compileswift.com or follow the podcast there in whatever podcast player you use, and all the details are on compileswift.com. I need to get a new episode of that out. Exciting episode coming out this week. I was a guest on, I want to mention this because it's an end of year thing. I was a guest on Empower Apps. Good friend of mine, Leo Dion, invited me back, in which we did a review of the year from a Swift development perspective, right? So he's going to have that come out. Look for Empower Apps, EMPOWERAPPS.com. Because what we did was basically looked at everything that we discussed at the beginning of the year from WWDC and basically sat down the past week and said, all right, how much of this did we get wrong? And was it a good year? I'm not going to spoil the outcome. That's going to be a fun episode. It was a lot of fun recording it. You should definitely check that out. .show. Thank you. Not .com. Thank you, Coco Type. Oh, Leo, I'm so sorry, buddy. Yes, .show. I keep forgetting about .show. Thank you. Thank you, Coco Type. EmpowerApps.com. That's a fantastic, by the way, he has a whole bunch of cool people on there, and he's got a lot of cool stuff set up next year. So if you are into mobile and iOS development and that, you definitely want to check his stuff out. Just want to put that plug in because he's such an awesome dude. and I've been on a few episodes now, and I guess it can't be that terrible because he keeps having me come back. But we do a review of the year, both hardware, software, and that. And I feel like this year we had so much to talk about. Nicholas Code says my other favorite pods. Pods woo cast. Nice one, Nicholas. It's been great, Peter. Thanks, and glad I made it. When's the next one? My Own Treachery, thank you so much for joining us, and thank you so much for reaching out to me this week and getting in contact with me. I greatly appreciate it. Please feel free to keep doing that. And I do have a schedule up. If you go to compileswift.live, at the moment, the schedule, I need to check if the Wednesday show is on there, but normally I do the SpriteKit this stuff on a Wednesday night, and I do app-related stuff on a Sunday night. But because I succeeded where I fouled in the middle of the week this week, I decided I gotta save some face and put this out here. So, and with so much going on with this SpriteKit stuff and what we've going on, that may end up being, you know, a few shows in a row. So it's either going to be either be Wednesday or Sunday, but of course it is Christmas, so I'm going to reserve the right that I may skip one or two, but I think we can probably pull one off on Wednesday. So I would say Wednesday, I'll be back here. Keep an eye on the Twitter and on the schedule on compileswift.live, and I'll keep those updated for everybody. All right, that's it, folks. I got a really dry throat now. I have spoken a lot this week. Thank you to everybody. Thank you to the subscribers, the viewers. Of course, always awesome. Thank you to everybody in the chat room. You're all of you in the chat room are what make it worthwhile, as far as I'm concerned. You make it fun to do, and you help solve problems, and we ask lots of great questions and have great discussion. Love the conversations we have in the chat room. So thank you to everybody in there. You are all fantastic. If you don't catch the next one, and we don't get back together until after Christmas, for those that celebrate, I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful holiday season. Other than that, I plan to be back here on Wednesday, and feel free to join me. We will keep going. And now I need to make my checklist of all the things that we're going to put in this app, in this game, and make them awesome. Take care of yourselves. Thank you so much. I'll see you in the next one. Oh, feel free to message me. Also, I have a lot of code I'd be happy to share. I will certainly take you up on that. Thank you so much. You can rest assured that now I know someone who knows SpriteKit. Rest assured, you are now the in-house genius. We've nominated you. Sorry, that's it now. You're the one. Take care, everybody. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.